Alright, so in this video we'll be working on a 21-inch iMac that has a common problem back from 2010-2011, which is, in conclusion, the graphics card has completely died and we don't have no power coming to the screen. The screen does work fine. I have tested the screen in a different machine, so the screen shows live. In this video we will actually replacing not a traditional different Apple card from that era. We actually be replacing one of the Nvidia Core2Duo cards, which is a workstation card. It's a decent upgrade from a original AMD 5000 series or AMD 6000 series. And the most major upgrade is that this card supports metal, that's what it requires to run macOS Mojave and Catalina. Which is, if I put another AMD 5000 6000 card, we're not able to push this machine from Mojave to Catalina. It will still be stuck running its own metal emulation on a high Sierra. And plus, if I stick another 5000 6000 card, it will potentially die after a year. So when it comes to those iMacs, I do recommend to keep away getting a reflowing or AMD 5000 6000 cards from eBay, or getting like a refurbished ones, because they eventually will die. If you do definitely want to get a original Apple card, I might suggest to get a ATI 4000 series, because ATI 4000 series, they didn't had much graphics issues as its own AMD 5000 and 6000 family. So the predecessor, which is ATI 4000, should be compatible with this model, and it's less likely to be failed after a couple years. And however, I just only have this card in my basement technically. So yeah, we will just stick in this Core2Duo card inside this iMac, and yeah, we will be disassembling. I will just show you a quick process on how to do it, how it is. And one more thing, I will mention that the reason why you want to go for this specific card, because this card is not a Core2Duo 3000 card, it's not a 4000 card, it's actually one of those original 1000, I believe 1000, 2000 series cards. They have a bit small issue with this iMac. It works, but it's just gonna have an issue, which is I will actually show you in a later of this video. Alright, so we took out the board, which is, as you can see, it's It's a bit long job to take out because just those iMacs, if you work on a slim iMacs, they actually way much easier to take them apart. But so what we're gonna do is take this card out, the old card, and we also gonna change the firmware paste on the CPU. The CPU upgrade, it's I don't think potentially worth it on this one. It still works on i5, I think the first generation i5 or second gen, I'm not sure, but if that's the connected, then that's going to be a second gen i5, but we will see when we get this up and working, okay? So let's just move everything to this table and do some bits. Alright, so we got the motherboard on a table, so let's just start working this one. Alright, so that's the processor. We're just gonna clear the firmware paste and change the firmware paste. Alright, so as you can see, that's the potential failing card, which is one of those AMD cards. And as you see, the card form factor is pretty much the same one. as this one. So that's pretty much one of those reasons why I went for this one, or for the larger ones, because it's the same form factor. So even the length should be identical to each other, because when you do order a 3000 or 4000 series of quadro cards, you do need to actually do a heating modification, which is you need to drill like some couple, like make a gap so for some couple capacitors to fit in. But I think potentially on this one you don't need to. The heatsink that is built in an iMac 21 inches should be perfectly fine. So let me just take this card out and swap with this card, okay? So comparing the cards, they technically familiar in terms of their form factor. So we got the actual die, which is die in here. We got VRAM chips, which is VRAM chips in here. This is my have, I believe, I can't remember, I think this one has 2 gigs of VRAM, but this one potentially has 1 gig of VRAM. So and we, as you see, we got a most likely BIOS firmware chips, I believe. Okay, could be potentially that, but it could be a BIOS chip. But technically, we should be alright without doing any modification. I'm gonna reuse the thermal pads in here. They seem at the moment fresh, so I'm just gonna change the card and apply some thermal paste. Alright, the card has been swapped, and as you can see, looks perfectly better than the black color. Well, it looks much cleaner than bunch of capacitors, resistors. Yeah, so pretty much I like it. What it is, it's a perfect fit. It's not bending the card. So the capacitor is actually really nicely made. You know, there's a gap for those capacitors to fit in. So yeah, let's actually put this inside the motherboard and see if it works. Alright, so the card has been put in, so I just put the Wi-Fi back in, and also, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but just in case, I'll also reset the CMOS battery. I always do that when they have CMOS. Every time I take off, I do take off the battery just to reset the date time, configuration settings, and all the stuff. So yeah, now the card is in, Make sure the sensors are plugged in. So sensors plugged in, sensors plugged in. Now we gonna start putting on a iMac back in. A bit pain in the ass. I like to work on the slimmer iMacs than the thick iMacs. It's just because they just have so much cables, and usually what I do, I let the board flying in the air, and then I slowly plug in the cables, and then I will fit that back in. So yeah, we'll do that. the iMac has been assembled back on. So we've got the power supply pulled back on, the graphics card is pulled back on, the motherboard is back in. We changed the firmware base on both processor and the graphics card. So as you remember, this one has a quadro card now. So I'm gonna power on this machine and make sure that the 3 lights do pop on. As I mentioned at the start of the video, we do want to see the 3rd light pop in. So what we're gonna do is zoom it in. Just gonna put it back in. So let's watch closely the lights to make sure they pop in, and then we have no problems. So power it on. Let's see. All right, we got okay. Let's see. Is the 3rd level pop in? Okay, just rebooted itself. Okay, power's on back on. Right, here you go. So it done some weird reboot now, but here you go. We got a 3rd light come on. So we have a graphics card in the system. Erase the card. So let's just basically put back on. Let me just get a drive, put it back on, and we're just gonna do some testings, and we're gonna screw the screen back on. Okay. All right, the screen is fitted in. So let me just adjust that. Alright, the screen has been pretty much fit in. Let's just see how it does now. So let's just power on this computer, and let's see if we're getting any signal on the screen. No signal. Oh, we do have a signal. So yeah, this card does take for a while to get the screen up and working. So yeah, so when you do put a quadro card inside, when you do power on, actually it does take for a while for the screen to come on. Alright, shows a question mark folder. That's not a problem. I just basically power this off machine, and we'll be back with our operating systems. Alright, so I just grabbed one of my operating systems. So I just basically gonna make sure that it reads perfectly fine, and I'm just gonna build for my external drive. So at the moment I have nothing inside in my internal drive at the moment, unfortunately. So I'm gonna be installing Camden on that one. But in this initial step, I will make sure, I will double check if the card does register fine on this operating system. So yeah. Alright, so the machine has booted up. Yeah, just set it up. Let's test 2 crucial components. Let's actually test the brightness on this one to make sure that the brightness does work, because that's another issue with those cards. Since the card is not a really original Apple card, it tends to be actually has a brightness problem. But this one, since it's in a full brightness mode, as you can see here. So those are my 2 internal drives with the Camden operating system. So I'm going to use OpenCore to patch them. So let's just eventually see what we're getting now. Okay, so we have a, if I zoom this in, so yeah, we have a I knew it, it's a K1100M card by thing. So this does show a proof that this has been, the ROM of the card has been changed to properly work on this iMac. But let me see now the brightness works. So let's see if the brightness control works on this one, because we might have to patch that. Yeah, as you can see, most potentially the brightness might not work. Yeah, the brightness is not gonna work on this. So it doesn't show the configuration to adjust the brightness, but there should be a simple fix with the Kex editor, so I will eventually do that. And let me see if this is what reads perfectly fine. So graphics in displays. So let's just check the graphics in displays. Yep, we got Core2Duo LGA, we got ROM version this and this. We go, yeah, as you can see, we have metal supported. So we can be intentionally, we can actually change this to Camden operating system. I'm running on i3, but eventually it should be right. So yeah, Seems alright. Seems running. So lastly, I'm just gonna put this back together and eventually install Kalina on this one and maybe patch to Kalina. So that's the last thing being, is just to assemble this machine back on. Alright, so we will grab a open core legacy patcher on this one, which is, it makes way much easier. I actually, in my experience, I prefer this method than the door strips method. I got a door strip patches, so I can patch this get cleaner. But for a cleanest build, I prefer running a open core legacy patcher. So let's just grab a open core legacy patcher from a GitHub page, which is, we got a open core legacy patcher here. Alright, so we're loading a open core now. Let's just wait for this open core to finish. Let's close that, we don't need it anymore. Alright, we got a legacy loaded, so let's just I don't think we pretty much need to do any settings. I might just actually enable settings, set GPU model for K1000. So here, Nvidia Kepler card, pick a timeout, force web drivers. Should I enable that? Let me just actually leave that and disable AMFI, ignore updates. I might just do that. Disable firmware throttling, I might just do that. It's not necessary, but also I will just enable hibernation workaround just in case. Return to settings, and do you want to enable unrestricted Apple internal? Yeah, allow any recovery OS just in case I have any issues, so I can boot into any recovery. Did the unrestricted VRAM and proper TechX just in case if I do need that, but I don't think pretty much I need it, so I will just keep everything original and return back to settings and install OpenCore. Just gonna load up, install to the disk, gonna install on my internal drive because I'm sure I got Kalina installed in there. So select EFI, enter the password, and as you can see, my Kalina drive is there. And let's see how this actually performs on a Kalina. Alright, Catalina has potentially booted up, so let's just do the, let's insert it. So it seems booting perfectly fine. I will say it's a bit dim actually on a high zero. The brightness, the full brightness is actually, you can see a potentially broad full brightness, but I'm not sure if this is because of the dark mode, but we will just see. And we're gonna basically wait for this to load up because it's running from a hard drive and it just only has 4 gigs of RAM. So we will just wait for that to load up, and occasionally we're just gonna check the system preferences now. Well, finally, Catalina actually booted up. To be honest with you, this Catalina is running from a hard drive. Only uses 4 gigs of RAM, but to be honest with you, the boot time wasn't that bad. It was just like less than a minute. But as we can see here, the Wi-Fi works perfectly fine. I have not changed the Wi-Fi card on this iMac. And what we're gonna have, potentially we're gonna have a SHU-C and i3 system. Alright, and as we can see, we got a iMac Mid-2010. The card SIMs has been detected as well. Let's just check the what it shows on our graphics preferences. And now we're gonna select graphics and displays, and as you can see, I can say it's manual supported. So, and we got 2 gigs of VRAM, so that'd be a potentially bit alright machine. Not a powerful machine, but I mean you're running Kalina, so you shouldn't have any problems. And let's just test the brightness control. Okay, brightness does actually work. So on Kalina, the brightness does work. So on a high Sierra, the brightness has an issues on a high Sierra with this card. Legacy might have patched that problem, and it shows the correct image of the display. So if you're just gonna jump on display preferences, if we can, because it has a problem. Here we go. We can control the brightness, and the brightness seems decent. So it's a full, perfectly functioning card. So, in conclusion, we have replaced a faulty graphics card. Originally it had an AMD card. Potentially I think it had a 512 megabytes of VRAM or 1 gig of VRAM, not sure. So we took off the faulty graphics card and we potentially have replaced it to a much slightly better card, which is a workstation card, Core2Duo K1100M by Nikki. Well, that's basically we'll say because the ROM has changed. It's not going to be a original Nvidia ROM. It has an Apple ROM, which allows you to show the boot options. Yeah, technically this is actually turned out really decent repair. It doesn't seem have no problems with the compatibility except from high zero. You do need to patch the brightness on high zero because the brightness doesn't work on high zero with this card. But since like Catalina has sorted it out on this iMac, the only issue why I don't recommend this card, right? As you see, it's a 21-inch iMac, right? I will say let's see if you get a good price for this card. I do recommend putting in this actual iMac. It seems running perfectly fine because you don't need to drill stuff, you don't need to like modify the heating, it just works. However, if you do have a 27-inch iMac and you try to put this graphics card, unfortunately you might experience a bit of issue. Because originally the way I got this card from, I planned to put this card on a 27-inch iMac. However, on the 27-inch iMac, when it actually when it restarts, the screen sometimes doesn't show up. So if it doesn't show up, you have to do a PRAM for the screen to show up. So let's actually see if this actually has a sleep functionality. So let's just put this thing on sleep and see if we can wake the screen up, because sometimes those cards have a problem from waking up the screen from the sleep. It's functioning inside, but the screen has issues to wake up. Let's see if this thing wakes up again. Okay, seems the iMac wakes up, so.
Okay, here's how to fix the black screen issue where you need to reset the VRAM/PRAM every time. So once you've got the system set up, go ahead and download OpenCore Legacy Patcher. You want to go to the settings, and then you want to disable Show Boot Picker. You want to go to SIP settings, and you want to tick every single one of these. So as you can see, you just want to tick every single one. Return to your settings. You don't really need to touch MISC settings. There's nothing that will make a difference here, same as non-metal. What we're interested in is developer settings. Disable the firmware throttling, then you want to select Nvidia K1100M. Then return to your settings, return to the main menu, build and install it. Once it's built, install it to disk. Once that's done, it will prompt you for your password when you select the disk. So just go ahead and put in your password. Once you've done this, it's going to prompt you to restart. So let's just wait for that prompt. Go away, Adobe. Alright. Go ahead and restart, and you will see that this issue is no longer existent on this iMac. As you can see, this is normally where you would need to do the PRAM reset. But there we go. You've got a screen, you've got an Apple logo, and it's all working. What happens is, as soon as OpenCore loads, it patches the kernel to basically allow Nvidia K1100 GPUs to work properly and for the screen to come up. That's all there is to fixing this black screen issue when you upgrade to a Quadro K1100M or similar that exhibit issue, I believe, issue 7 from the upgrade site list.
Do I recommend this card? Well, if you got 21-inch iMac just like me from a mid-2011, mid-2010, absolutely get this card. It will help you to install Mojo, Catalina. Some people say you have issues running on Big Sur, but I might test it eventually. But to be honest with you, Catalina is so far so good for this. Big Sur might be a bit too much for an i3 model. So yeah, I do recommend this card if you want going for the similar setup as me. But technically it's a decent upgrade, and it's I think those cards going for like 60-70 quid. I'm not sure about this market. When I got this card a couple months ago, it costed me like 80-70 quid from China actually. So it's a right decent upgrade if you want to get your metal compatibility on this actual machine. So yeah, well, I will just put this display back in, which is, it's just simple, just screw it back in, just put this display back on, and yeah, thanks for watching.